all-knowing and all-powerful, starting with the elderly wolf uncle. Chapter 141. The next moment, those policemen, who were obviously nervous to the extreme, suddenly found that their bodies had lost control. Under their blinded gaze, the body actually automatically aimed the gun in his hand at the surrounding colleagues. Bang bang! Suddenly, at the gate of the manor, there was a burst of gunfire like firecrackers. Nearly 100 policemen were almost dead under the mutual shooting of their colleagues. It turned into a corpse with a pierced eyebrow and a horrified face, and fell to the ground on top of each other. The ground within a radius of more than 10 meters was soaked with blood in just a few seconds, exuding heat and a strong smell of blood. Devil, 1,440,485,057, remarks into the group. In the pile of corpses, there were also 3 people who had been stained red with blood. They seemed to have survived for the time being because of the number of police, not even numbers. The bodies of the 3 policemen were still unable to make movements, they could only control their faces, and looked at Chen Tian with extreme fear. Hum yi. Chen Tian's gaze swept over gently. Psychic fluctuations spread. The 3 policemen instantly shut up. Bang, bang, bang. 2 of them shot at each other, and the remaining one shot himself. Poof. 3 more bodies fell to the ground. Airplanes. Then, Chen Tian noticed a car parked not far away, suddenly started, directly stepped on the accelerator to the end, reversed and turned around and prepared to run. His brows frowned slightly, and his eyes instantly turned crimson. Rumble. 2 crimson beams wrapped in a huge terrifying temperature burst out. Bang. The car had just driven out a few meters, and directly in the ultra-high temperature, it exploded into smashes, and the parts with flames flew around. Then, what happened? Several police officers responsible for blocking the lower garage heard the movement and ran outside. Phew. Suddenly, my eyes flashed. A strong wind came in. The figure of a teenager flashed directly in front of them. Burst. Chen Tian gently raised his finger, and the blood in the bodies of several policemen immediately turned into countless spikes, piercing all their blood vessels. All the skin and eyeballs of these policemen immediately turned oozing blood red, bleeding, and fell to the ground, dying of anger. Now with the blessing of a new bloodline, his natural talent for water control has also evolved considerably. Dealing with at least 3 or 5 ordinary people at the same time is not a problem at all. Chen Tian finished solving all the policemen outside the manor. Only then did he slowly walk to one of the people and turn over the clothes of one of the policemen with a cold face. There's a proof in it. The logo of the bald eagle is printed. Chen Tian recognized this as a sign of SHIELD. So his eyes were grim, and he said coldly, Nick. Fury, it looks like you've been living too long. Chapter 98. Chen Tian's anger enveloped SHIELD, bald eagle caught in fear. Xavier College of Geniuses, basement chamber. The passage has been maintained and repaired by SHIELD people. The original walls were covered with dust and cobwebs, but they were simply cleaned up, and the entire floor was not dusty. The ceiling lights, which had also been repaired, shone a gloomy white light that would turn Nick Fury and Professor Charles behind him, as well as the staff pushing the latter, cast large black shadows under their feet. The door to the passage of the secret room was already closed when they entered. At this moment, in the surrounding environment, only the sound of a few people's breathing, wheelchair rolling, and footsteps remained. Logan, we mutants will get better in the future, right? Professor Charles, who was in a wheelchair, still looked blankly. Nick in front of him, Fury's back, falling in his eyes, became the young Logan. Howlett. Of course, as long as you help the mutant through this time, everything will be fine, Nick. Fury turned around and said, well, I'll try my best. Professor Charles nodded emphatically. The future of mutants, but something this old man has been struggling with. Soon, a few people came to the deepest part of the basement, outside the door of the brainwave enhancement machine. Nick Fury looked at the door number of the war police hanging on the iron door, couldn't control his excitement, and took a deep breath. 1 step away. As long as you take a step forward, the mutants in this world will completely disappear. On Earth, there will no longer be a moth that threatens human safety. Charles, hurry. He couldn't help but turn around and urge, now as long as you go in, and then turn on the brainwave enhancement machine, you can perfectly solve the mutant crisis. Good. Professor Charles heard this, took a deep look at Nick in front of him. Fury nodded again. At the moment, Nick Fury is in his eyes as a young Logan, and he feels that he is helping this future Logan save the mutants. Because of the illusion fog, Professor Charles has always felt that there is something wrong. But as long as you think deeply, you will find that your thinking is chaotic, and you seem to feel that all this in front of you is very reasonable. How could Logan be bad for mutants? Sir, I have to cooperate with him to save the mutants. Thinking. Professor Charles pushed his wheelchair closer to the door of the brainwave enhancement machine, scanning the retina of the eye through the combination lock. Welcome back. The door slowly opened. The tone of the cue recorded by the professor in his own gentle voice came out. Quick, Nick. Fury couldn't hold back the emotions in his heart and urged again. Then he strode to the center of the brainwave booster and held the helmet placed on the ground in his hand in advance. Seeing this scene, the assistant of SHIELD also quickened his pace and pushed Professor Charles in front of the other party. Charles, the rest is up to you. Nick Fury took a deep breath and handed out the helmet of the brainwave booster. Logan. Professor Charles took the helmet and called softly. He suddenly felt that everything in his vision began to become more and more blurred, even his eyelids seemed to weigh 1,000 pounds, and he wanted to close his eyes uncontrollably. Logan. He looked at the young Logan in front of him with an expectant look on his face, and said weakly, I'm so sleepy. I don't think I should do that. No. It's a must-do, Charles, you can't stop. Nick, Fury narrowed his eyes and said, Logan, I'm starting to become less aware of you. Are you really Rogan? Professor Charles suddenly felt that the figure of the young Logan in front of him began to slowly blur, and seemed to slowly turn into a figure with a black bald head.